Last Pint Productions presents the New Way podcast. The New Way contains adult content, including the category for Best Blumpkin, won this year by Ben the Blumpkin Wilson. Congratulations, Ben. And better luck next year, Matt Shank and Nick Santacroce. Listener discretion is advised.
I'd like to thank a great director, an incredible cast, my agent, and my new agent.
You don't buy that? Yeah, Sean Penn, 2001, I am saying. Remember? Went full retard. Went home empty-handed.
Now you will only be risking your lives, whilst I will be risking an almost certain Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor.
Everybody wants to be naked and famous. Everybody wants to be just like me. I'm naked.
Will you help teach me about this? What is it? A new way?
Hello and welcome to the New Way Podcast Oscars 2020 92nd Annual Academy Awards Podcast, coming to you from Boynton Beach, Florida. I'm Matt Shank. Over there to my left is Mr. Ben Wilson.
Hey, you guys!
And all the way over in Los Angeles, where they do the Oscars themselves, we have Nicholas Santacroce.
Matt,
Who do you
on the red carpet here in the West Coast, and I gotta say, the energy is electric.
It is like the cars in Los Angeles.
Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. I think I see Nick. Nick is about to interview Kirk Cameron on the red carpet.
Oh, there. Hey, Kirk. Nope. Nope.
What does Kirk have to say, Nick?
We lost. Yeah,
we lost our feed.
We seem to have lost Kirk. Anyway,
we lost Kirk. We lost Kirk today. That was really a ballsy joke.
Oh,
I said Kirk Cameron.
Man, yeah, I know, but then I said we lost Kirk today, and I did not mean it in that way. Well, let's bring things down for just a second, because it was on my notes anyway.
I'm trying to do an interview with Kirk Cameron about God Isn't Dead Part 4, and you dropped that on me.
As the E.T. theme plays in the background, let us mourn today.
Ouch.
103-year-old Kirk Douglas passed away. A icon for sure in cinema.
I don't believe that once you've passed 100 that it's mourn is the right word. I think it's celebrate.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I'm also, for God's sake, they brought Kirk out every year.
Yep.
And it was worse every year, and I can't imagine was he enjoying? Is this something you would enjoy? Do you think you get to that age and you want to get like
absolutely not
like they bring him out like Hannibal Lecter?
I kept on thinking that hover round was going to fly right off the stage.
The timing is suspicious when you think about it that way.
Oh, that's terrible. It's like, please God, don't let me go through another one.
Michael was
like, Kirk is
Daddy, it's time to go.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, Michael Douglas doesn't sound and look all that great now. I mean, and it's his dad. It's insane.
Yeah.
He looks so young in the Ant-Man movies.
Well, we'll definitely be discussing de-aging as we get through this podcast for sure.
You almost spit out your hazy brew.
I almost did. It is delicious. This is a Tropical Envy from Civil Society.
The only thing
made in collaboration with Vitamin C.
The only thing that could take your attention away from running the podcast. Come on, Matt. Focus, buddy.
No. Okay. I got it. Emma and Nick. Most important parts. All right. We thank you for listening to the New Way Podcast. This is where we break down pop culture so you don't have to. We have a big episode airing, which for you will be airing on Oscar Sunday. Unfortunately, and most of our longtime listeners will know this, Oscar Sunday is also Ben and mine's anniversary.
It's true.
But this year,
very sadly, we will not be spending that together.
We will not be together. Ben will be in Boston, Nick will be in Los Angeles, and I will be in Boynton Beach.
Technically, I will be
Florida.
en route, but fortunately, we're flying JetBlue, and we take off at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we will be able to watch the entirety of the broadcast, assuming that it's over almost on time.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath.
Right, exactly. Well, but, last year it only ran 8 minutes over or something along those lines because there was no host and it sped everything up, and they're doing the same thing this year. So I'm assuming that maybe things will be a little bit more streamlined just like last year.
Now, did we
Poor
watch...
Billy Crystal, just going to sit at home, twiddle his thumbs.
I was trying to remember. Did we watch them together last year?
I believe we did.
I think you and I. Was Nick there?
No, I mean No, Nick wasn't there, but we had people over at our house.
Yeah,
and
because I was trying to think of this. I don't think the three of us have all together watched any Oscars because I missed the 1 year with Moonlight. I was in Bandera,
right,
and then I think Nick missed maybe the year after. I don't know. But somehow in the three of us, I don't think have ever actually been in the same room.
Last year, there were other people over at our house, too, because like Brian and Adriana came over, and there were a few other people that came. We had
I remember this now.
Yeah, we had like 8 people over at our house last year, and a lot of people left like halfway through, and you were the only one that I think stayed until the very end.
Of course. I have to. Listen, look,
and then stayed for an
you
additional 2 hours.
You don't remember that delicious cheese plate?
I do.
Sorry,
remember.
I didn't mean to walk over you, Nick.
Ben's cheese plate was more important than Nick's joke. The joke's gone now, Nick. The cheese plate was more. We had to talk about the cheese plate.
It's gone.
What did Beth say?
Gone.
What was your joke, Nick?
Oh no, I just it's dead. It's so gone.
I'm sure it's going to be just as good now.
I'm gonna get mouth to mouth. Live, David, live. No, it's gone. Sorry.
Kick that horse.
Sorry.
Yeah, so no, I'm an unapologetic lover of awards shows. I like them. I like to see the speeches. I think the Golden Globes this year, Golden Globes does their like Cecil B. DeMille or whatever it is, their Lifetime Achievement Award on there. Always elicits a fucking amazing speech. We had Meryl Streep a couple years ago fucking killed it with her speech. And Tom Hanks this year
Tom Hanks was great.
I mean, if you weren't brought to some kind of tears while watching that speech, you probably are dead inside at least a little bit. It was wonderful.
It was fantastic.
And the Oscars are the biggest one. You get to, and I was Nick's actually works the Oscar red carpet. We may be after this episode, we might be getting some behind the scenes.
Is he doing it this year?
And we'll bleep out his name in post so he doesn't go against his NDA.
We'll be on here.
yes. And it's funny. We have a little game that I'm actually come to enjoy more than the actual Oscar ceremony itself, which is spot name redacted in the red carpet pregame show.
What is it? You have to drink every time you see him?
There we go.
It's a great game.
I do remember watching once with Nick. We were watching for something named. Okay, this is too hard. Listen, we'll figure it out afterward. The 4 people listening to this podcast are not going to rat him out, but we'll figure it out. But yes, I remember we were looking for a bearded man.
All will be disclosed at a future date.
This is true. The Oscars are great, and we'll be digging into that in a little bit. I want to get to just a couple things. We talked about Kirk Douglas. We just had a Super Bowl that I don't really think anyone really had a horse in that race.
It's a great game, though.
Yeah, I know, and the play calling was a little bit suspect. I think, but it was very exciting. Because of the play calling.
I went biking on the beach.
Oh, there you go.
Good for you.
I was the commercials were not
great. Bad this year.
I did like the Groundhog Day commercial.
The beach was delightful. And actually, it's funny. I biked past this giant parking lot, which was being set up for the Independent Spirit Awards, which happens.
Nice.
I think Saturday.
Yep.
Kinda neat.
Before.
Yeah, they do them like right on the ocean. It's crazy.
Yeah, right on the ocean.
Which we'll actually probably watch as well because the girls have to go to bed at like 8:00. So once we're there in the bed, we're just like, unfortunately we have a little like mini suite, but once we're in the room, we're kind of like stuck there in Boston this weekend. So
nice.
I figure we'll probably hang out, order room service, and watch the Independent Spirit Awards.
You can summon your own independent spirits.
Okay.
Room service.
Yeah,
I like this.
There you go.
I did also want to talk about a pretty much note perfect TV series finale that aired last week, which was The Good Place. Had its series finale, and it was You knew it was going to take a page out of The Leftovers when they legitimately name checked The Leftovers in the first minute of the episode. Like literally just talking about the show The Leftovers. It's kind of fantastic.
And I appreciate your real-time text, by the way.
Yes.
They mentioned The Leftovers, you guys.
Yep.
It was so great.
Well, now that the show is over, I can finally start it.
There you go. Yeah, it's a short 4 seasons. You're
Yep.
done. I mean, you get through it pretty quick.
Get through it really quick.
I kind of wish that I had been able to do that because I binged the first 3, and then it took months and months to catch up, and now I'm like a season behind.
Yeah. I say it's worth it. I thought it was a very emotional and satisfying ending. I said to you guys, it might be the only show that will make, like, very similar to Leftovers, though, I think, as well. It will make believers, non-believers, and don't know if they believers, all fairly happy with how they kind of resolve everything on there. And the other part of it,
and you mean specifically men and women of faith, not supporters or naysayers of the show.
No. Yes, I meant religious. Whether you're if you are
just
religious, agnostic, atheist, it's a show that really hits kind of all the bases and does a great job. It was a phenomenal finale and made me bawl several times. So that was good stuff. We do owe an apology. But we have an apology we have to deliver here, and I don't like it,
guys. I accept your apology.
No, that's not.
You
I'm
guys
sorry.
are always assholes.
I talked over your joke about 4 minutes ago. I'm really sorry.
Wait, no, it's no. Unfortunately, we recently aired a special edition podcast on location in Texas. And apparently, we may not have checked a couple of our Texas facts sufficiently, and we were also at live time feed told about every one of our mistakes from Mr. Ryan Alexander, who lives and resides in Texas and was not happy with our lack of knowledge about the large state out there.
So here he is to talk to us about what we got wrong. Ryan.
Maybe
not yet, but soon.
Maybe very soon. We'll see.
Maybe soon.
He's gonna be so pissed when he hears this.
If he even comes on the show anymore, he seemed very upset with our mistake. Listen, my mistake was the actual University of Southern Texas team, which is not the Badgers. It was the
something else.
The baboon. I don't know. There's some other B.
I said Badgers because we were talking about the University of Wisconsin, though.
No,
could he have maybe
Matt was the one who said Badgers.
I think I said Badgers. And then also Badgers was much funnier than whatever it wound up being. Bobcats, I think, is what it actually is. Just sort of a
boring.
I mean, I guess it's an okay animal, but that's whatever it is.
Sure.
And then one last thing before we dig in here, there was a trailer released in the last couple of days, and I don't know what to think of this. There is a new Saw movie.
Oh yeah,
coming out or it exists in the Saw universe. With Chris Rock. The extended Saw universe.
Chris Rock's Max Minghella and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
I can't wait till it gets to the Saw multiverse.
I think we're in the Saw it says it. What is it? It's like in the realm of Saw.
Yeah, it's from the something like that.
From
the book of Saw. Is what it says. That's literally what it says. It says called from the book of Saw.
It's what the fuck is this? What? I remember reading the news a while ago. Like Chris Rock and Samuel Jackson they're producing this.
Chris Rock pitched the fucking movie. It's his idea.
What is happening?
It's his idea. Remember what you said about the crappening?
The crappening is happening right now. Filmmakers are fucking going crazy. We got to get to the bottom of this. People are making bad and weird decisions way more than they normally do in Hollywood.
And apparently movies that are supposed to be awful are actually pretty decent. Have you seen the reviews for Birds of Prey?
I heard it's great.
Everyone says it's awesome.
I heard it's fantastic. So,
which I'm like, what? Wow. Okay, well, that's interesting.
It better pass the Bechdel test.
We'll see.
Considering all of the protagonists are, we'll see.
Yeah. Exactly.
You never
Wouldn't
know.
That be something.
Well,
Wouldn't that be
the
something?
reviews are great because it does not pass that test.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
okay.
kidding. It's a
My
terrible
God.
joke.
That movie looks very strange. Having a Saw movie starring Chris Rock,
Chris Rock's
Chris
Liam
Rock and
Neeson's-
Samuel L. Jackson, and it seems very very out of place, and also doesn't seem like a Saw movie until like the last 3 shots of the trailer.
Yeah, and there's not like it doesn't seem like there's a wink and a nod either. It looks like it's fairly
serious.
straight up like police procedural, and I just don't understand.
So does the Jigsaw puppet man? Is he in it?
There are these spirals, and there's a one shot of like a hallway, and there's something little at the end of it, but it could
Yeah,
just be like a small
But
person.
people are
Who
still
knows what it is?
trapped and forced to solve riddles. To
It looks like
avoid
that's
their
it
it
looks
looks like
that-
that it's going to go that
There's some of that,
direction.
and the last shot of it is Chris Rock with a saw, like chained to something, looking at his arm and looking at the saw.
Yeah.
Rock saw paper. Who wins?
that was a good one. Nick.
I wish I had. I don't have it queued up for the laughs thing. Not quick enough, but
I love it.
speaking of laughs, as we head into our Oscar,
Really quick, I did have something also. Did you see what just popped across the feed a little bit ago, Nick? Now that Scott Derrickson is no longer making Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, did you see who's in talks to direct it?
No, I didn't know.
Mr. Sam Raimi.
oh,
Okay.
Sam Raimi.
Okay.
Considering
I'm
it's
into
a horror,
yeah.
No, yeah, I'm into it.
I
I'm
was
into
like, I really like the idea, kind of. I mean,
I would
lean into
love-
the weird.
I would love nothing more than just for Sam Raimi to kind of get a free pass to make the movie he really wants to make for Marvel, under Kevin Feige, and make up for Spider-Man 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think, listen, I think that Marvel game it's interesting. Obviously, there is a tact as a filmmaker that you can take with Marvel that they don't like. There's something that with just that because it seems like half of the guys in there are like, yeah, I was able to do like Taika. Like I came in, I said I want to fucking make Thor funny and lean into this and completely change the character that you guys have spent 4 movies building. And they're like, yeah, fuck with our formula. We don't like we're on board with this. And then
wait. Hold on a second. So you're saying we should use Chris Hemsworth to the fullest extent of his talent?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Imagine that.
Now, but
No,
Listening.
Ironically, though, I feel like one of the reasons why Scott Derrickson ended up leaving Doctor Strange is because apparently Scott Derrickson was not wanting to lean as hard into the horror, even though that's the genre he was known for because that's where he came
and see,
from.
I heard the opposite, that he wanted to go way more. His whole reason for doing the first is he wanted to get to the second for the horror, and it sounded like they were pulling back on it. But I don't know. Again, it's hard to tell with any of these things until you see the
Yeah,
movie that
it's-
comes
yeah,
out. 'Cause
of
you
course.
you look at something like Ant-Man, which famously had Edgar Wright being pulled out at the last minute, and you have Peyton Reed come in, and that movie still feels very much like Edgar Wright at times, and it doesn't seem
Sure.
like a far cry from what his might have looked like, even though he probably would have gone a little bit more weirder and intense on that. But
Or what if they're positioning this in the future for the next phase? We're on phase 4, right?
yeah,
Yep.
So into the future, right? What if Blade will definitely be horror? If Doctor Strange, it kind of shifts towards horror, and they use some of the more horrific characters like Blackheart or stuff like that. You got your kind of horror Marvel universe. You got your sort of normal action Marvel universe on Earth with the Avengers, and you got your cosmic Marvel
yeah,
that will open
that's
up
what-
with Fantastic Four and Captain Marvel.
there's a lot. Well, and I think that the other part that they've said a lot is that this WandaVision, which we saw our first look of during the Super Bowl,
With the classic costume, those bastards
Yeah.
finally did it. They finally.
they have said that WandaVision ties heavily into Doctor Strange too. So that's
Yeah.
another thing that's and that also could have been a point of contention with Derrickson, that maybe he had his movie locked and they're like, hey, we need to get these
Yeah.
universes working together. We need to shoehorn in this thing. And he's just like, no, I don't want to fucking deal with that.
that's
Which
possible.
That seems like it's a possibility. And Raimi not having
we have a machine here. All right, you're a cog. Now get in line.
Disney Plus, man, is starving for money off of the all that money they lost not making Baby Yoda merchandise over the holidays. They've got to get that back, man. That Marvel money.
Gotta make that Marvel money.
So yeah, we are on our Oscar podcast today. I do want to remind you, last year we tried something different. Do you guys remember what we did last year? The little thing we did.
We had a monologue. We did
That
a
is
monologue.
correct. Each
I
one
wasn't
of
proud
us.
mine.
We,
I wasn't proud of mine.
well, I just thought I'd
It's
play.
haunted me ever since. Thanks for bringing it up, Matt.
Oh, I'm not just going to bring it up. I thought maybe we'd play a little snippet of each of our monologues for the audience out there to hear. So,
I hated mine. Why you
So-
did?
so up first. Now, I will say this. I'm going to go Ben, Nick, me. Since I was running the board, I couldn't read my notes and use the laugh track, and you guys gave me nothing. So you guys at least have like laugh tracks doing it. Mine's just dead air, just bad dead air. So I'll remind you that. But here's Ben first.
Gotta
here.
think you earn it.
I only did like 20, 30 seconds, so it won't kill you.
These individuals are still being presented these awards tonight due to their unwillingness to participate in a Thunderdome Battle Royale. Shockingly, they didn't choose to die with honor.
Oh, shit. That was a little Ben Wilson. Ben was trying to give me a clapping sound to say to play another cue, which I did not get to. Nick, Nick,
That the backstory makes it.
yes, Nick.
It's like he had a real Jeb Bush moment. Please clap.
He did. Then we have Nick went the route of
clap.
please clap. Nick
Please laugh.
went the
Mine.
route
Please laugh.
of a Billy Crystal sung monologue. So here's Nick.
Oh, take a look at yourselves. Oh, faux pas are commonplace. And you mixing up awards is a little odd. I can still see Beatty's face.
What did you do? I wanted to tell you what happened. I opened the envelope.
Oh man!
And-
It is. I'll give myself this. It was good timing on the soundbite there. In the
Yeah,
song.
the Beatty bit was really good. I
Baby
enjoyed that.
timed up the Genesis.
And here's me just talking with no sound whatsoever from anyone else in the room. 91 years we have had these awards. To think the majority of our voters were only in graduate school when these awards were first handed out in 1929. It was a simpler time for them. Milk only cost 10 cents. You left your front door unlocked, and blackface was totally okay, even outside of Halloween costumes. We are gathered together in the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles, and that means when you get
off
played
the
off third
stage.
time tonight, it will be in 5.1 stereo sound. Ooh. That's the only reaction I got out of anything from Nick. Just one to the Dolby surround sound joke. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.
And actually, I thought you said Thomas Dolby, the guy who did She Blinded Me with Science. I was a really big fan. I take that back, actually.
Ooh.
Oh.
Anyway.
I love that.
With that introduction, let us dive into this year's Oscar talk. I, for one, found myself very surprised with a large number of the movies I watched. I know we've all seen differing number of movies here.
Can we first actually just talk about the year in movies? Because I feel like that 2019 was actually a supremely strong year for movies. There were lots
terrible Oscar nominees.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I feel like there were lots of really great movies.
It was a very small. It was a much small. Like there are none of the nominees. I don't think this year are big movies. Even something like 1917, which cinematically is big, is a tiny story about two people essentially.
I already made that point in another episode.
Okay,
I'm just joking.
Sorry. I think there are very small movies all around, and you look at even some of the big performances are, the Joker is a small movie with one major character and like three other major speaking roles, and that's it. I mean, these are all kind of tiny, very indie
Little
feeling
Women
movies.
is a little movie.
It's about little tiny women. They barely fit on the screen.
The women are small. The movie
Nick,
is
Nick,
God damn it.
Nick just went to think. Nick, you just went to see it because you thought it was about the Mothra twins.
Little Women. Okay. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there were a lot of yes, Nick actually has a mask of one of the Little Women on the wall behind him, Miss Emma Watson, who played one of the Little Women in question, who's now hanging by her ear. Yeah, I think it's in. I think it was. So, what are some of the movies that really kind of resonated with you, Ben? That maybe you're not even in the Oscar talk.
Well, I just remember it being a pretty solid year all around. I feel like a lot of the tent poles.
All right, Ben. This isn't the State of the Union. Where are your facts?
Where am I? What?
What were your favorite movies?
What were my favorite movies of the year? Well, I want to talk about them because a couple of them show up on my Oscar list. But obviously we
Back
had.
it up.
Obviously,
Tell me.
If you want to look at some of the big tentpole movies, obviously we had Avengers, which was, a huge kind of
I'm sold.
ultimate event, which was, I thought, totally delivered on what it needed to do, basically. And then there were lots of other kind of, some other smaller movies that came out earlier in the year that I also liked, and I'll go through some of those here in a little bit. But were there any? So let's talk about the movies that weren't nominated. What are some of the movies that weren't nominated that everyone liked here?
My big one is Us, and that's mainly just an acting performance. Yeah. I think Lupita Nyong'o absolutely deserved an Oscar nod. Even I remember seeing that. Nick and I saw it. That was like February this month of last year, is right after the Oscars. And just going to see me she's not going to get it. Even then, it's like she's not going to get a nod for it, but she absolutely should. The movie as a whole is not quite as groundbreaking maybe as Get Out, but her performance is, I think, leaps and bounds above anything in either of the two movies. I think she fucking slays it. I mean, that's the big one for me. I didn't have a lot of. I felt that there were. I would maybe add The Lighthouse, which we're going to get to in this talk here for our cinematography.
No, it was nominated, but
yeah, for one award, just cinematography.
Well, The Lighthouse was one of my favorite movies of the year. It may be my favorite movie of the year, but I understand why it was not nominated.
Well, you didn't see Bad Boys for Life, so
did you?
Technically,
did you?
I mean, you didn't see Bad Boys?
I did not see Bad Boys. I'm curious. Did you actually? I'm not judging you. Did you see it? Okay, Nick saw it. Wait. Can you? I'm kind of curious. What is your review of it?
Also, listen. The Sonic movie came out in 2020. We're not going to talk about that.
It hasn't come out yet.
Didn't it come? It's going to come out.
It's coming out in like a week or two. But that's not the best of last year.
It can't be nominated.
No.
Is what you're saying.
No, it's not. Wait, hold on. Well, go back for a second.
I want to say for next year, my first pick is definitely Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Get Jim Carrey his Oscar.
There were no nominations for Cats after they took it off of awards consideration, which is kind of hysterical as well.
The thing that's crazy to me is, did they at least submit the Taylor Swift song that she wrote?
I think they pulled everything because they were just terrified of being at some point they're like, if more people see this, it's worse for us. Let's get this in front of less eyes.
The song was not bad. They wrote a brand new song.
I can't hear it over the sound of her cat boobs. So it's I don't know.
A couple other films that were nominated. I mean, a kind of a crowd pleaser movie that I was very I did not expect to like at all was Shazam, which I liked, which I thought was a really, really great DC movie. Both
dubbed by the Academy.
Under the Silver Lake,
one.
which is Thomas Cameron Mitchell's film starring Andrew Garfield. It's available on you can watch it on I think either Prime or Netflix now, but really, really interesting kind of film noir set in LA. Her Smell, which is a movie I watched on HBO, which is Elizabeth Moss, who plays kind of this like washed up punk rocker, which is a really cool movie.
I heard a lot of
Yeah.
people saying that she probably deserved a nod for that.
It was such a small movie, so I'm not surprised that didn't end up, coming to pass. But that was really good. Midsummer was a big one that I think a lot of people really liked.
Not a lot of love.
The Farewell was a big one that a lot of people really liked.
and
My wife, I haven't seen it, but my wife really liked it.
I was gearing up to watch that because she had won the Golden Globe, Awkwafina, and I was going to watch it if it was on the main ones for this. I'll get to it after this kind of run. But a weird one that
wasn't there a reboot that you were looking forward to, Matt?
A reboot of Bad Boys?
Oh,
of the Silent and J type.
Oh, I watched that, by the way, 2 weekends ago with my brother.
That's funny.
There are a couple of things in it that are great, and Chris Hemsworth shows up for like 60 seconds and destroys. Like just one scene as a hologram and just fucking kills it.
Did anyone watch that movie that Fred Durst directed with
The Fanatic?
Yeah, did you see that one?
No, I haven't, but I've heard it's like the best hate watch of all time.
I've been hearing good things.
It is insane. I think that we should probably all watch that and make that a future episode.
Maybe I think that could be a fun hate watch.
Get those Limp Bizkit drops ready in the soundboard. Man.
And I think there are two others I would maybe throw on that aren't I guess maybe three others if you wanted to get kind of technical on the writing side. Yesterday, I thought could have gotten maybe a screenplay nod.
Still haven't seen it.
Just because it is a little inventive and kind of interesting. Rocket Man I'm
Rocket
amazed.
Man, great performances in Rocket Man.
Yeah, Rocket Man gets nothing after Bohemian Rhapsody gets like everything last year. Just surprised me.
I turned it off after half an hour on a plane.
Really?
It was too corny for me. It did not work. I respect what they were trying to do, but going back and forth and just it just was real corn. It was so it felt like I was watching a movie, but I could feel Elton John over my shoulder, like, "You like it? You like it, right? Was that a good decision?"
Well,
yeah,
that might and I think that might explain it because it does not make sense after of seeing Bohemian Rhapsody get all of this love last year, and then this gets kind of nothing, and they're very similar.
It reminds me of a really bad adaptation of a musical that never existed.
Okay.
That's how I would describe it.
It was Cats before Cats.
Jesus.
How dare
How
you.
about we do Rocket Cats next year and we combine all the bad things of Rocket Man and all the bad things of Cats in one show?
One of the last
Burn it out and nip out there alone.
one of the last ones is Peanut Butter Falcon, which is I think
Yes.
a great film and really really cool small story, a lot of fun, well made, and seemed to just get great sort of praise from everybody, but I think it ended up just being too small.
That one really bugged me, especially for and I forget his name. The co-star from here,
Danny.
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 I
my family knows.
You had
friend of the
mentioned
family.
that. I wound up watching that out in. I want to get his name just to give him some love.
Danny's his friend.
Zach Gottlieb.
Zach. Yeah. It's Danny and Zach are they're friends.
It is a really sweet movie. I absolutely think that's the kind of performance from him that should be getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination, especially.
I thought Shia was great too.
Yeah, and Shia and not no slouch in that area.
Real life cannibal.
And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, actual cannibal
with me on the acting, and then maybe we start there and work our way up to director and film. And I've only missed a couple of the acting performances on both the male and female side of things, but I think there's a problem inherent. And you and Beth and I were actually talking about this at that beer opening a little bit on Saturday, which is that if you're going to open up a category for more nominations, I think the acting for me, I'd rather see more nominations in the acting.
Yep.
To open up for
it to
more
7.
people.
Absolutely.
And
take that away from the 10 nominee Best Picture.
It's only
Keep
9
that
this
to
year.
5. All right.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying.
I think it should.
5. Pick the 5 best films of the year, and then let the actors. Let's make the actors and their categories feel like March Madness, and Best Picture can be like the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you could also take if you want to go crazy with it, you can take a page out of the Golden Globes and have a dramatic and a comedic and break it up that way if you want. But I'm okay with just saying, let's open it up to 10. It doesn't have to be 10. Do it just like the Best Picture category.
Just the acting category.
Yeah. But even if we don't do that, so let's take a look.
But if you play the Joker, you probably will win. Unless your name is Jared Leto.
Yeah, he's the exception that proves the rule. There's got to be don't go full Joker.
Or Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, the only 2 people who haven't won an Oscar for playing the Joker are Jack Nicholson and Jared Leto.
And Mark Hamill.
Well, Mark Hamill and also technically, what's his face from the original Batman the movie.
Yeah, it's Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
So let's.
He didn't play the Joker in a film, though, right?
No, he played
in the Batman the movie.
Yeah,
with the shark repellent.
I guess that does technically
Robin
count.
In shark repellent. In fairness,
one of
that
my favorite
movie
lines of all time.
That movie does stretch the word film a little bit, but yes, it is technically a theatrical release. So take that, Martin Scorsese.
Shortly after filming that film, Frank Gorshin and Adam West were kicked out of an orgy for staying in character all night. That is actually that's a true tidbit.
Okay. Well,
they literally were kicked out of an orgy because they wouldn't stop pretending to be the Batman and the Riddler.
Well, I defy any listener to not be thinking about that for the rest of the podcast and whatever else we're going to talk about. I will be. Riddle me this. Yeah. So let's talk about Best Supporting Actor.
You think you know your friends, and a Riddler Batman orgy reference that really happened just gets crickets.
That's
Unbelievable.
True. Unbelievable. Best Supporting Actor. Here are the nominees. We have Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Anthony Hopkins playing Pope Benedict in The Two Popes. Al Pacino playing Jimmy Hoffa in The Irishman. Joe Pesci playing Joe Pesci in The Irishman. Brad Pitt playing Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So that was
pretty awesome, though.
Those are your 5 nominees. So I don't know if anyone else saw A Beautiful Day.
I have not seen A Beautiful Day.
Did you say Joaquin?
No, we're doing Best Supporting. This is supporting. So Hanks is up for Mr. Rogers. So there are a lot of people playing real people nominated for acting Oscars. You've got Judy Garland with Renee Zellweger. You've got Harriet Tubman with Cynthia Erivo. You've got the Popes. You've got a few others on there. And there's kind of a spectrum of Hanks is not doing a sound-alike of Mr. Rogers. It's not going to happen. It sounds like Tom Hanks, but his cadence and his performance is actually really, really phenomenal, and it's really there to play up the other character. That's why he's supporting nominee. He is not the main character or really the crux of the story. Right? Matthew Rhys is kind of does the heavier lifting, and Chris Cooper coming in there. It's great, but no, I don't need to give. I love the performance. I think he does a lot of really interesting things with it, but I don't think Hanks needs the validation for it. I would absolutely give that to Zach Gostigan or someone else in that. And the same also with Anthony. Did you guys watch The Two Popes or not?
I have not watched that either.
So I saw.
You saw it. Yeah. What did you think about it, Nick?
So I'm visiting my family for Christmas, and this, along with The Irishman, was a movie that just, I didn't have a choice in. And I actually really enjoyed The Two Popes. I think that from my personal lifestyle point of view, I certainly had some problems with certain things, but I thought it was a very, for what it was, a pretty good film.
Yeah, and of the ones that we'll talk about in this podcast, that is one of the ones that I was surprised by. I did not really have any interest in watching. I watched this one last night, actually. One thing I did not know.
It felt like a narrative. It felt like a documentary film.
Yes.
Made to live action almost.
And I'm watching this. I'm going, wow, there's some really interesting choices of how they're shooting. Like, and you're right, Nick. They literally go in and out of documentary style with actual documentary footage, then cinematic stuff with the real guys shot like documentary, and then other stuff
Exactly.
shot cinematically. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then I look up who directed it, and it's Fernando Meirelles, who directed City of God.
City of God, right?
And I'm like, oh, this makes fucking perfect sense. Now that I know, and I had no idea
He started out in documentary film.
Yeah, that what pedigree was behind it. That's why I made.
I really wish they hadn't shied away from the corruption, but it was really interesting filmmaking. Consistently.
He's a great director.
And they hit the corruption. They hit a different side of it, and it's interesting because he's hitting more of the he's hitting more of the Argentinian side with the war and kind of that stuff. And I think that's
not touching the church, which to me is it shows the power of the power of the Catholic Church. But the choice that he did make, I thought panned out, and the chemistry was really good. They certainly from the first minute paint the popes where they're going to be.
Yeah.
For the rest of the movie, and they're going to be at odds. But at the same time, great performances, and I got to say, Anthony Hopkins showed me something a little different. He's kind of one of those actors that is just royalty, and he's good in everything that he's in, but it's always kind of playing Anthony Hopkins, and this is still the case.
Yeah.
However, his Benedict's alleged elusiveness and aloofness and manipulation is really interesting to watch Hopkins tackle that in this movie.
Yeah, and I agree. And Hopkins, I think he had I think that Jonathan Pryce delivers the better performance between the two. But you're right that Hopkins, there's just these little bits that he's throwing in when you realize how much this guy is planning out everything that's happening with him, and every word that's being spoken, everything that he's bringing up is all kind of this kind of machination, which is kind of interesting. But again, Anthony Hopkins is another one that, like, if I would open up, especially in supporting actor. There are so many little interesting performances out there, which I've heard. I haven't seen it, but I know Jamie Foxx is in a film. I can't remember the name of it, but I heard a lot of people talking about how, like, ridiculously good his performance was in it. There's Adam Driver in another movie called
Michael
The Report.
B. Jordan?
The one with Michael B. Jordan.
The Report was Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah, there are some other movies out there that I think so much gets lost when they somehow decide what.
Just Mercy.
Just Mercy. Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. Because I'm looking at the best supporting
Last Black Man, San Francisco. I mean, there's lots of movies that.
I mean, Pacino. No, I don't. You guys. So let's. We're now that we're gonna get to there in this. What is Ben? You're the only one that hasn't quite weighed in yet because you were the last one to watch it, and I know your opinion is a little bit different. So let's talk The Irishman, since there are two nominees in this category.
Why do you want to talk about it now?
Because we're gonna go through Pesci and Pacino here in our best supporting actors. So if you want to just wait for your full dissertation.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you regret watching The Irishman?
I think The Irishman's a far better film than either of you are giving it credit for. It's got lots of problems. It's got some serious problems. However, the last half of that movie, I think, is nearly perfect. And that's...
I just wanted to let that.
If it was its own movie,
if it was its own, the last half of that movie was a
different movie.
So if it was okay,
you're basically dealing with three completely different movies in that, and the thing is
and they all suck.
Okay, well, according to you and not the rest of the Academy. No,
I did go against the other white men making all the decisions for Best Picture.
No, I honestly, I think that the weak link in that movie is, well, all of the stuff that Scorsese
the age of the men involved.
Hold on.
No. Wait. You asked me about the fucking movie. Let me tell you about the fucking movie. Okay.
I'm saying it, Ben. I want to hear this.
So here's the thing. I agree. The whatever de-aging they did, which was none, completely didn't make sense. The entire first half of the movie was paced like Goodfellas. It was shot like Goodfellas. It felt like a rehash of something that Scorsese had already done. The characterizations were broad.
That's
the performances were strange and kind of all over the place. And then all of a sudden, about halfway through the movie, right when it starts getting into the, I mean, not to,
can
obviously
spoil it. I'm not
because
gonna
we're going to get into
yeah.
spoilers no matter what. But once you start getting into the Hoffa assassination shit, and Al Pacino is just all over the place in that
Spoiler
fucking
alert.
movie.
Jimmy Hoffa's dead.
Yeah. By the way, but all of a sudden it turns into this weird, like a very interesting movie to me, which I guess maybe some of the characterization stuff doesn't work if you don't have that precursor, but I feel like it could. I feel like it could if you were just like hinting at it, because the last hour and 25 minutes of that movie felt like a really, really interesting character study about someone who literally just has no scruples, and they're having
But
to.
should a character study that's half good be nominated for Best Picture?
Well, that's the thing, is because I also think just Pesci is like great in the movie. I think that Pesci is the strongest part of the movie.
Pesci's the only thing I can watch in that movie, to be honest, that
See,
I can deal with. But
he seemed to me, he seemed old and lethargic, and not because that might be how he is in real life, but like a sort of Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. He did not. There's something I can't put my finger on,
and that's fine,
about specifically Pesci's performance is actually my weak link. That's just me.
I can understand every criticism that you could levy against the movie. My feeling was that the first half of the movie was weak and was a kind of a retread of stuff that Scorsese had done in the past, and the end was a rumination on death and mortality, and an understanding that morality, especially in the face of death and in the face of age, it can be so nebulous. And I really thought turned into a beautiful movie at the end, and felt very like, and I loved like the last 20 minutes. I really felt the last 20 minutes.
You are not at all wrong, for at least in my opinion on that. I just felt that it takes so long to get there. It not even just to get there. I feel that the first half of the movie negates every lesson that we're supposed. So if you look at this movie, and the part of the way I looked at this movie is Scorsese as a filmmaker ruminating on his past and his mistakes and his choices going forward. Because what does every fucking filmmaker put into their movie? Their own fucking life story. Every filmmaker at some point.
Look at Pedro Almodovar. He made the movie this year.
Literally.
Glory.
Might as well call it Pedro Almodovar. But like, it's a very obvious that this is an old school Hollywood, new school. It's Scorsese trying to tell this message. And that got ruined for me because you get the first half of this movie that's such a retread.
Back in my day, movies were 3 hours long. It wasn't even slogged through it, and we loved it.
It was such a waste of time and a waste of performances. And maybe that first half works if you just cast fucking young actors to play these roles.
It worked a lot fucking better. That's for sure.
And that's part of it to me, that there's a vanity in this movie that permeates anything good that it does, to the point at which I shut down. I said, listen, you tried at the end, but no.
He would much rather steal Marvel's de-aging technology, the same films that he think aren't cinema. Okay. I'll tell you what, it is basically Game of Thrones season 8 in reverse. Listen, I can live with where it ended up eventually. I just wish that it not taking me 3 hours. With Game of Thrones, I can live with how they came up with the ending, but flesh it out.
Actually, closer to 4 hours. and I think watching the movie in 2 sittings definitely colored my view of it, because
one time through, baby, whole time.
Yeah. So in that first watch, I was just like, meh, and then I watched the second half, and I was like, I really think enjoying this. I really think it's a really interesting kind of rumination on kind of mortality from a filmmaker who's obviously kind of, aging and is getting to the end of that. So I also thought that that last hour and a half was also just from a staging standpoint was filmed really, really very delicately and was very beautiful, as opposed to kind of the haphazard rush cut, sort of fast Goodfellas retread shit that was happening at the beginning of the movie. The end of the movie was pretty. The end of the movie looked good. And so yeah, I thought that it was a redeeming factor. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies of the year, but I would put it way above other movies, which I know that you guys liked, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think is
I did not like that movie.
Well,
No,
I think it's a shit movie. So
No, and I'm not. Yeah, I think actually you're gonna find us not. So
Okay.
So let's talk. So since we're gonna get to
We're
this,
in agreement.
we're gonna
But
get to
we're
the.
also right about the Irishman.
I'm sure.
So
I wanna
let's
be clear.
Let's get into Once Upon a Time because I think the front runner for this category and also of these nominees who I would pick for Best Supporting Actor is Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in
I would
Hollywood.
pick Pesci well over Brad Pitt, but I'm sure Brad Pitt's going to win.
I'm okay to give Pitt body of work.
He's deserved it for other stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at body of work for Pitt. I think it's
Training Day.
I think it's a very easy role for him to
Yep.
do. But I
He gets
also
to play a cool guy.
But I also respect. First of all, he's going to give a great speech because he's fucking been like every single speech he's given this season has been phenomenal.
Yep.
But he's also another one of these guy. I like watching these guys. Like he's still thanking Anthony Hopkins for like teaching him how to act. Like I like that there's a respect to that and that old school kind of Hollywood. That side of Hollywood I do like. And I think yeah, I have no problem giving it to him. The movie. So Nick and I sort of talked about this a little bit. I didn't think it was a shit movie. I probably felt like
I think it's Quentin Tarantino's worst movie.
That is, I had a feeling you might not love it. I didn't feel.
I do not disagree.
I didn't see it. I didn't feel it was his worst, but I will tell you what. After his Golden Globe speech, I started to hate the movie 100 times more than I ever did watching it in the theater.
It does have a tendency to have that effect on people.
It legitimately it legitimately made me feel that just you're a trash person. And no, I don't. This is not your high art, and don't fucking make it sound like it's your like. He threw the gauntlet down and said, "This is art." What I just did, and that, as soon as someone is adamant that their shit it doesn't stink, then I'm gonna look at it a little bit more critically than I might have. But no, I don't think it's a Best Picture nominee, even though probably gonna win Best Picture.
Really?
I really think it's going to.
Not. There is no possible way in fucking. I will bet you. I will do 10-1 odds with you on a $10 bet right now. You owe me 10. I owe you 100. If
it'll be Irishman. It'll be Irishman.
It's not going to be The Irishman.
In 1917. I think
Irishman has it 100%.
There are 3 movies that have a higher probability than either 2 of those movies. Higher probability. Have you looked at the odds? Because I've looked at the odds. Go to Boveda.
Never tell me the odds.
Look at the odds.
My polls are the best polls.
Never tell me the odds.
Well, the best odds for the movie to win Best Picture is the best movie of the year, in my opinion. So that's one thing.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna get to that. So, let's go through the rest of the acting. So best actor, we have Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory, one of the few I'm gonna watch before Sunday, but I have not seen yet. Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. By the way, as disliking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I really like all of the performances in it. Not everything, but most of them.
It's just them chewing Quentin scenery. Of course, it's going to be fun, but it's nothing of substance.
No, Adam Driver and
actually, I will tell this much. One thing I loved about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a little touch, is that they set up the flamethrower with Leo. They really set it up. They could have practiced that, and he would have been able to wield that effectively and quickly if the scene arose. And it does. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
I like that build-up. It's probably my favorite thing about the entire movie. And it's not exactly a ringing endorsement, but I did really like that part.
I just loved all the feet. I mean, who's not happy with that foot buffet that was on there? But we have Adam Driver in Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker, and Jonathan Pryce in The Two Popes. So
to me, I feel like Joaquin and Irishman are the 2 surest bets in the entire awards.
I don't think
Irishman for what?
Irishman's not going to. I don't think the love is going to be there for the Irishman. It hasn't been for any of the awards yet.
I believe so.
I don't know. I don't think. I don't think there's.
That's how I'm going to win my Oscar pool, baby.
I don't think there's a lot of steam.
You're gonna lose that. The Irishman's not gonna win anything.
So I think in this,
I'll have you know, I've tied for first place in my Oscar pools 3 years in a row. And I've lost in the tiebreaker.
So you're gonna lose that one.
I think. Well, let's talk about the performances here. All right, so let's talk Joker. We've all seen
Joaquin
Joker
Phoenix
now.
is going to win.
Joaquin Phoenix is going to win. I don't feel it's an unearned
No, it was a
Oscar,
great performance.
and especially for a body of work. It's not my favorite Joaquin performance, but
And to bring back Jim Carrey, how pissed is he going to be to see someone play Andy Kaufman and actually win the Oscar for it?
so explain this a little bit more, Nick, because Nick has a theory on this one.
I've been doing some research. Now, we know that Heath Ledger's Joker is heavily based on Tom Waits as a guest on a talk show.
Yeah.
A talk show heavily figures into the plot of Joker. And the Joker, when in character, being interviewed by De Niro, Murray.
That's my for me.
Murray.
That edges him the win for it. It's just Murray. That fucking slayed me.
I've been saying that for hours. I saw it last night. But when he is in the chair, to me, it feels very much like Andy Kaufman. Now, on top of all of those connections, he's a stand-up comedian, an awkward stand-up comedian that rises to fame less about his material or his act or his joke, but the fact that he's so painfully awkward and a master of anti-comedy. I really believe, and a couple of people have brought it up. I did see a video on YouTube that pits Joaquin well before he was in Joker as Joaquin Phoenix doing Letterman.
Oh yeah.
Andy Kaufman going to Letterman, and it's very similar. So I think that there's something there.
Okay,
That's
yeah, I can see a little bit of a tie, especially with
it's
the
Andy Kaufman, man.
with the antagonistic side of it when he would do that character. Because they're all different characters with Kaufman, and I can see a little bit on that side of it. But I think there's a little bit more there. I think,
I mean, it's still a little bit of a stretch to me.
Kaufman is the Joker. He, wrestling women, showing up on to fight Jerry Lawler.
Yeah,
he's chaos. He's chaos incarnate.
I can see some of that. I can see some of that in there.
I feel like it's like if Heath Ledger, you take his Joker and his interpretation, and then you go, okay, how do I? We're not even bringing up Jared Leto. How do I do justice to the Joker after he? And they go, okay, look, we're going to go the comedian route. We're going to be a little truer to the comics. He's a failed stand-up comedian. Okay. What comes to mind first? If you're Joaquin Phoenix, you already have a built-in love for Andy Kaufman. He's also, Andy Kaufman was famous for being kind of unstable and unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that
it makes sense you would go there.
The only thing that doesn't quite ring true for that for me is that's not how Phillips pitched the movie and the character they created. Phillips literally, I don't know if you, my brother's told me this story a few times. I read it. Phillips
was Chris in the room?
No, it was in an article that Phillips talked about. He goes, he told Joaquin they were making a heist movie. And he goes, what do you mean we're making a heist movie? He goes, I'm going to make a character study and I'm going to get the studio to bankroll it by making it a Joker movie. And that was literally his thing, is he wanted to do a throwback Scorsese flick. And he couldn't, but he couldn't get it.
But Scorsese is making throwbacks.
Yeah, but he couldn't get it financed. He couldn't get the movie he wanted done. But he said, "So I'm going to make it a Joker movie." So they built the character, and then they said, "How can we fit this into some of the things of the Joker?"
Yeah,
which they did.
Well, Todd Phillips has said that in interviews.
Yeah,
they wrote the death of Martha and Thomas Wayne. I mean, it reminded me of Spider-Man 3. When they retroactively make a villain that had nothing to do with the character's parents' deaths in the comics, and then all of a sudden, the reason those parents are now dead, which is a whole other motivation for Batman, and probably why they're saying Joaquin's Joker is not going to intersect with.
There was also a whole other ending that they shot for Joker that they couldn't get past with the studio. Look up on that one. I don't want to get us too bogged down on it, but there's some other shit that they wanted to do with that flick.
Anyway, I saw Joker, and it's one of the few movies I saw, so I'll back off for the rest and let you guys take the But overall, there were some things that bugged me along the way. You make the white male rage joke, and there are parts of it that did kind of like just making him sympathetic is problematic to me. However, at the end of the day, it stuck with me, and I think I really liked it. And I think that it's in no small part to another category.
I think that whole thing was so overblown and was entirely created by just people who hadn't seen the movie.
I don't.
The entire thing is an antithesis of exactly what that thought is. I mean, the whole thing is a cautionary tale. It's a fucking tragedy. It's not glorifying anything. No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying that there's no glorification of that character.
Okay. I didn't say glorification. The words that I used were sympathetic. And of course, we are meant to feel sympathy for the Joker, who was abused as a child and neglected by humanity. The whole punchline, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill introvert that society rejects? You get what you fucking deserve. He is built to be a sympathetic character, whereas Joker, and I tried to turn my Batman brain off, okay, but I can't turn it off. The thing is, what I liked about the Joker was that we didn't know his backstory really until fans really pushed for it years and years and years and years later after the character was created. We like him because he is chaos, because we don't know what made him, and that's what's scary. That being said, when you turn off the Batman brain, I did really like the movie, and I did really like the performance. Right. And if he wins Best Actor, I think that he absolutely deserves it, and not because he played Joker. I think that, you know,
they said that the biggest fight they had, the biggest fight they had with the studio was saying, no, we're not having Batman in this. Like, there can't be a mention of Batman. There cannot be any
Bruce
sort of.
Wayne is in it, though.
Yep, Bruce Wayne's in it. A very young Batman. Bruce Wayne, but not Batman. No Batman. And that was a big fight, apparently.
Now, does Joaquin does he get an Oscar for Walk the Line? Does he have an Oscar?
Yeah, he's won.
So he has one. So as far as he
has won everything on the circuit.
Yeah,
and he has been also making waves with his acceptance speeches. So it is really in the Academy's best interest.
I just wanted to
when you're a nominee with all these other white dudes, with the exception of Antonio Banderas,
Yeah, well, from a personal standpoint, and I still haven't seen Antonio either, and I've heard really, really good things about that performance.
Yeah.
As much as we know that he's going to win for Joker, if I was a voting man, from what I've seen right now, I would be voting for Jonathan Pryce, because I really feel he is. First of all, that movie he's doing Latin, Spanish, and English with a Latin accent, Argentinian accent, which has got to be fucking confusing as an actor to pull off. Body of work, he's been in a fucking ridiculous number of movies and delivered great character performances. It's a really good performance. And it would be nice to see somebody like that. So I just want to say it out there, that would be my vote. But let's get through
But is it because it was the best performance in the group, or because he did a really good job in the movie he was nominated for and he deserves this one?
I really liked his performance a lot. I had zero interest in that movie going in. I literally had to force myself to watch it last night instead of writing a Baby Yoda song for you. Did
you write it?
No, I didn't, because I watched the two popes. Fucking all these pope shows. I don't need any more of this pope shit out there. But I watched it.
Did you listen to my sound
for a little bit. Keep on track here, right?
All right. Sorry.
I expected nothing from that movie. I really didn't. I thought it was gonna be two old actors just like phoning it in. And we're both British and we're delivering these performances. But I thought there was a lot more to it than I expected. And his performances, that last bit that he's got to pull off, that kind of the atonement, telling that whole story when we're watching the younger version of him. It's great. It's great work. I think it's really great work.
I see Anthony Hopkins eating pizza in my nightmares now, though.
Yeah, that's terrifying. It looked a little bit like Jim Carrey with the skin
carcass.
In Cable Guy. But
Silence of the Lambs.
I'm not kidding. It's kind of like that. It's a very... He goes
Jim
at
Carrey is backing up the references this episode. Who knew? Our Oscar episode, Jim Carrey gets the most references.
Anthony Hopkins goes at that piece of pizza like I've never seen anything like it. You are not wrong. He devours it in one, like a snake, just goes, and just it takes the whole thing. It's terrifying.
It's the one moment of the movie where you're like, oh, was this an outtake that they in the room somehow they're like, you know what, let's keep it in.
I think
It's pretty good.
I think they starved Anthony Hopkins for like 3 days as like, oh, you're the Pope. He's atoning, and then
For
just put
this
pizza
stuff-
in
for
front
this-
of him.
For this scene to work, we have to really believe that the priest is a werewolf.
Okay, so
Go.
all right, so let's go through the actresses here as well. Best Supporting Actress. The only one I didn't see
Let's
on
just go
this.
through the actresses.
No. The only one I didn't see was Kathy Bates, mainly because I've heard the performances in Richard Jewell are great, and I'm actually really interested in that story. I think it's
Yeah,
a great
me
time
too.
to tell it, and I've heard it's a trash movie from a writing and directing standpoint, and that Eastwood just completely bungles it, which is a shame.
Eastwood
So I haven't seen it.
sucks. Eastwood
Laura
sucks.
Dern in Marriage Story.
Hey. Please, Eastwood did direct Unforgiven, man.
Unforgiven
Okay.
is a great movie. But that's it. Laura,
$1 Million Baby's pretty good too.
Laura Dern.
That's what happens when you make an adaptation from a Metallica song. Of course it's going to rock.
Laura Dern in Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh in Little Women, and Margot Robbie in Bombshell.
I haven't seen any of those performances. Not one.
So I can say I love Laura Dern in Marriage Story. It's a pretty flashy role, but I wouldn't give it an Oscar.
Yeah, I wouldn't give him an Oscar.
I love Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit.
ScarJo is great, and I like her. I think she's my pick in that because I don't want her for Best Actress.
Yeah, I'm glad
For
she got
Marriage
the
Story?
nod, but I don't. Again, it's another one where I would have given that to
I know
somebody
you like
else.
Florence Pugh.
I really did. I thought she delivered a really interesting performance in that movie. It was good. Margot Robbie has one fucking.
Wouldn't it be crazy if she won for supporting and Best Actress? Has that ever happened?
I don't know that it's happened in the same.
I don't think it's happened.
In the same
That would
Oscars.
be crazy.
That would be pretty crazy.
It won't happen.
No,
Not completely undeserving.
no, because I think Renee Zellweger is going to take it for Judy. Is my guess.
Judy.
But yeah, I liked Florence Pugh, and I thought Little Women. Ben and I talked about this one. I thought Little Women. I think Ben maybe liked it a smidge more than I did, although I did enjoy it. I wasn't blown away 100% by it, but I loved the choices that it tried. Like it really went outside the box to tell a well-worn story. And I love Florence Pugh. I think, and also it's her. She's got some heat behind her right now, just in general.
Sure.
Got a big Marvel movie coming up.
I still think that movie doesn't work without Saoirse Ronan, which
Yeah.
why she's my favorite for Best Actress. And even
She's
though
phenomenal.
she's
I
not,
knew you were gonna say that.
she's not gonna win. It's gonna be Renee Zellweger probably
Are
for a
you-
movie that's not because that's like the big thing. I feel like every year one of the either actor or actress categories, it goes to a movie that's not nominated for a bunch of other stuff.
anything else.
For anything else. It's just, oh yeah, that person was great in that role. And the thing is Renee Zellweger is a completely underrated and completely unappreciated actress. She's really phenomenal in a lot of work that she's done. I mean, and she's an Academy Award winner.
Yeah.
And multiple time nominee. And I haven't seen Judy, but my wife has, and and she said that was an incredible performance. The movie was okay, but but the performance is good enough for her to win an Oscar.
Well, and it's hard also.
Are you Saoirse? She will.
I thought so. That one was that movie. Also was another one. There are a lot of movies I went into with very low expectations, and maybe that's part of why I wound up enjoying a lot of them. Judy Garland's story, I thought was. I wasn't really sold on watching it, and it's a very strange telling too. It's basically the last couple of months of her life mixed with like a smattering of flashbacks. It's like it's not a biopic by any means, but it's also not like a specific story either on it. They just take some strange things. I will give her I say the one reason why I will give her the Oscar in this one up against the others is she does her own singing, and she fucking way better than she was in Chicago kills the singing, and at first I was like, I didn't quite understand why they had, and I realized how much she starts as she's I can't say that word.
Deteriorating.
I'm really bad with that word. That thing where that gets worse over time. She
when it
does.
starts to deteriorate.
I do sound more like Judy Garland when I say deteriorate. That's terrible.
Jesus.
Rest in peace, Kirk Douglas. So we.
God.
Damn
it.
Digging that hole. That hole.
He's still warm.
Christ.
Well, not that warm, but it was not warm to begin with while he was alive. It's very old, very cold.
Oh no!
So,
hey, can you edit me out of this podcast?
Nope, you're part of it. You're a collaborator right now. Complicit. No, I thought she does all of these on stage performances as she's getting worse, and it you need to have the actor. It's very Les Mis. It's very much like I mean,
like watching
Judy Garland steals the loaf of bread and Act One.
Listen, if Anne Hathaway wins for Les Mis, I think Judy wins for Renee Zellweger wins for Judy. So that's our actress and Scarlett Johansson, A Marriage Story. I really like, but I don't know that I would vote for.
I thought that she was fantastic in the movie, but I think she was better in Jojo Rabbit, in the supporting role.
Why can't she win both?
Or maybe they were equally as good, but I think that she probably has a better chance of winning in the supporting role.
But is she the best in both? Is she the best offering in both categories?
No, because all right. So let's talk. Since I'm the only one that's seen Bombshell, I want to talk about Bombshell for just a second because I think I'm the only one that saw it here. But I showed it to my brother because I was very curious. He works in TV news. Bombshell's the Fox News scandal story with Charlize Theron as Megyn Kelly, and you've got Nicole Kidman as Gretchen Carlson, and
the villain from Santa Claus the movie as Roger Ailes.
It's John as the dad from Harry and the Hendersons playing the lovable Roger Ailes. So cuddly.
Father from Third Rock from the Sun.
So I watched
Father from Footloose
and directed
the Father from everything.
The Father of Life.
The cross-dresser from The World According to Garp.
Oh wow!
Did I lose anyone on that one? So
John Irving, very nice.
There we go. This movie was directed by Jay Roach, who directed Austin Powers, but also did Recount and Mystery Alaska, because I know we're big fans of that on this show.
He directed The Hangover and Austin Powers.
Well, Jay Roach started kind of the political thing that Adam McKay then sort of took over, and now they're doing these like political biopic things with a little bit tongue in cheek. But I will say, I was watching this movie and I'm like, holy shit! Like this is, first of all, Charlize Theron so nails Megyn Kelly. It is unnerving to watch.
Are you surprised?
I mean, I'm not, but she looks. And the voice is dead on. And you're watching this like, okay, well, how sympathetic are they going to make her? And it's leaning a little bit, but then they start to kind of chip away at that. Because it's a really tricky story to tell.
Right.
Because Megyn Kelly, you don't necessarily want to be a hero based on a lot of her past behaviors, but you also don't want to vilify her to the point at which her coming out against these things that are like you can't. It's a lot of victim shaming.
Who was portrayed more sympathetically, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker or Charlize Theron? I'm dead serious.
100% Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Interesting, isn't it? A psychopathic white dude played more sympathetic.
Megyn Kelly is. Listen, if you are super left, a lot of the super left did not like the movie because they felt it was too easy on her. And if you're super right, you're probably not watching the movie maybe at all. Now, what was funny is, so I showed this to my brother, and I'm expecting him, what he normally does when we're watching things that are based on TV news, is he'll be like, okay, that's bullshit, or like, that's bullshit, that's kind of dead on. So we're watching this, and we had both watched Loudest Voice, which is not the Matt Shank story, but the other Roger Ailes biopic on it was on Showtime with Russell Crowe. and we watched that, and I go, I'm sure that was more authentic. They had like 6 hours to go over everything. And my brother watched Bombshell. He goes, oh no. He goes, because I know people that have interviewed. I know people that have worked at there. He goes, this is way close. And that's when I realized why it probably didn't get so much love from the Academy. Is the movie seems like it's a little too over the top. And my brother's watching it going, I don't think this is over top.
Kind of like all the people in Washington are always just like, no, the most accurate show about Washington is Veep.
yeah. It's you're watching
like
this going
people are like, no, that's literally the closest show that you can get to.
And
oh no, not The West Wing, Veep.
Well, and it wins, and it wins.
I would also say Ernest Scared Stupid. Also
that works as well. I think that's funny. So Margot Robbie got a nomination for this one, which would definitely be I would give that to Lupita Nyong'o in a second. Although it's supporting, so I guess she would have
she had to be like
that. But Margot Robbie's great, and she has to do one.
You would give Lupita Nyong'o a best actress.
I give her a best actor and editing and whatever else the hell she wants. I fucking love. That's my favorite. Maybe my favorite performance of the whole fucking year. It's fucking
best supporting for Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah, that works for me as well.
I feel like she could have gotten a nod too, man. I really do.
It is.
I really do.
That performance is crazy good.
Nominate her. Give her a nomination. She earned that nomination. It doesn't mean she's going to win or anyone's going to vote for that performance in this capacity. But absolutely with you, man.
Well, and Robbie literally has to pull off and it's funny. There's one scene, right? And it's the movie is fairly light in Bombshell for the most part, until it kind of gets a little bit. There's just this one scene. It's Robbie and Lithgow, and it's that that scene you're kind of waiting for a movie, and it's done very simply. It's literally just he does the give me a twirl, and he's like, all right, hike up the skirt. I want to see those legs, right? And so she's like awkward and kind of like begrudgingly doing this thing, and then the camera just like hits her, and he's like higher. And and you can hear him breathing, and you can see the flushed panic on her, and it doesn't cut away. Like it literally, and then the camera just leers on her. And I was watching it, and I'm going, this is a really tricky, like, I guarantee that was a month in the edit room of like, how do we show this? Because it should come across as lascivious, but not graphic or what's it called, exploitive, but it has to be a little exploitative to pull it off, and and she gets out of that room, and you're just like, even right now it gives me the worst bad goosebumps because it is such a gross fucking scene, and for me that's the only reason I think she's getting that nod, and it's that's not a fun moment on set, I'm sure that day, but yeah, they were all really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah,
and weight to taking on a role like that, and then doing it well enough to be nominated. So that I think that's awesome. You got to take that into. I think that's a great thing to put into consideration. Not their past roles, not how old they are, if they deserve one. That's one of those intangible acting moments that you can't really quantify how difficult that must have been to prepare for and then to actually perform on set.
Yeah. It's and I think that's where she earns that nomination, which you might want to argue against it and say it's not enough. But listen, she makes what could be the Tammy Laren character somewhat human, which is kind of amazing. So we'll give her the nod for that one.
Well, if that's what she accomplishes, then I would not like to.
Interesting.
So we're up to. I mean, we can talk about the screenplays, but I think that'll come as part of Big Picture and Director.
I started talking about this earlier with Joker. I've seen Irishman, Once Upon a Time, Joker. I have not seen Lighthouse. I have not seen 1917. Deacon's got his Oscar. I feel like Joker, man.
No possible way. No possible way. Possible way.
There were at times where it reminded me of Suspiria. Effortless Suspiria, I would say. Not in the way that the colors are supposed to jar you and be crazy. But he had this sort of like Miami vaporwave interpretation of light, cool, and warm that I thought was so awesome when you see him fighting his dual nature, and that stuff I eat up. I absolutely eat it up, and I think that was, and honestly, the first thing that drew me into the movie was not Joaquin Phoenix, was not anything but the cinematography and the lighting. I think Joker absolutely, from what I've seen, deserves it.
Nick, you're not wrong, but Roger Deakins just shot a movie that's an hour and 58 minutes long. It's one shot, basically.
And so funny enough, Ben, because I watched 1917 as well.
Did you see it in the theater?
I did. I still choose Lighthouse for cinematography over 1917, but let's talk both of those movies because I think those are very good counterpoints. The two most visually impressive movies I've seen maybe in the last decade are 1917 and The Lighthouse that are doing things with how sets are
and
built.
Birdman and Goodfellas and anything that just carries the camera for as long as possible.
You haven't seen the movie, Nick.
I'm not saying it's not impressive, but how is that the
Nick? There is a
thing
sequence
that
in
goes over the
1917. The flare sequence in 1917 is literally the most beautiful sequence I've ever seen on film. I think I was so
Really?
enraptured. I was like, this is the coolest thing I have ever. I mean, the movie is designed to look
Why
like
did you
one
lead
shot.
With that, then?
So
why do you lead with that, not the gimmick?
No, because the gimmick is part
of the movie. It's one shot. The movie is one shot,
and it's done with mostly natural
How many
light.
shots was the movie? Just answer the question.
Oh, I think it's probably 10 when you get all 10 maybe 10 shots or so,
something like that.
Where they're actually cutting.
One shot.
No, it's one shot, but they mask the shot.
Come on, man. Got 10 minutes to go. Just help us out, Nick. All right. No, because I really want to talk about 1917. I was very excited to see it myself. I'm excited to hear Ben. So let me have your kind of breakdown because you are the cinematography guy, and I was blown away.
So I'll go ahead and say that 1917 I think is far and away the best movie of the year. It's my favorite movie of the year. I was absolutely fucking astounded by that movie. And the thing is I think I was actually set up for a disappointment when I read some of the reviews where it was like they don't really focus on character. I think they give a perfect amount of character moments to the people who populate that movie, and it becomes so insular and this small moment, this story about just panic and like being a part of war with a small group of people. But at one point in the very beginning, when they're going through the trenches, when they're hurrying through the trenches. It's almost like sickening, like how claustrophobic it is. And then it goes in these beautiful wide open vistas, and the whole thing's just designed so perfectly. And then that first sequence when they go underground, I mean, it's just fucking riveting.
And just for those of you guys, if you haven't heard of it or seen it, it's a story based on his grandfather.
Yeah.
On Sam Mendes' grandfather told him the story about basically these two soldiers are tasked with getting a message to another battalion that's going to go and try and attack, not knowing that they're going into a trap. Basically, the Germans have lured them into this area. The Germans have cut the telephone lines, and the one guy's brother
and
is.
If it weren't for the tireless work of General Akbar,
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. They would. And one of the guy's brothers is in the battalion, so he's got the personal stake. His buddy doesn't really want to go, but they're sending this lone mission, just the two of them, to do this thing. And there are a couple of things I think that are masterful that Mendes does that are outside of just the sheer. What they do with the camera.
What Deakins does, and honestly, it's a before you get into it.
Yeah.
The correlation between the production design and the cinematography is so ridiculously incredible. I mean, the production design in that movie, and I thought the production design of Jojo Rabbit was also really good. And the production design of Little Women was really good. It has absolutely holds zero, no candle to what 1917 does. That movie practically
Was it art like a Quentin Tarantino?
Oh yeah, I think it was art. My thought it was art.
No, because they literally built sets to move, built trenches that could also break away and move so that the camera
can
keeps on your main characters, even though they're going through this narrow thing where there are people walking on either side of them. You're like, how the fuck are they doing this? And there's a behind the scenes for how they pull off this one big money shot where it is the craziest thing I've ever seen done to shoot a scene, where they are taking a handheld, what's it called?
A gimbal
rig.
Yeah.
They're pulling it up out of the pit, setting it on a crane, which is on a truck, which starts moving. Then the crane goes into another guy's hands to do all this shit. And they're doing all of this while coordinating 500 extras and explosions. So, like, when he runs into those guys, that was not scripted. He literally just ran into people and tripped and fell. And they're just like, you can't stop. Like, we have fucking charges. We have all this shit. Like, it's insane. But I think what you were talking about when they talk about that character study, I think where Mendes is a fucking genius is his casting.
Yeah.
So you have
so good.
You have like 10 roles that have maybe 60 seconds to 2 minutes of screen time.
And you have the 10 most famous actors alive in Britain play those roles.
Yeah, you got Colin Firth, Mark Strong, Andrew Scott from Benedict
Cumberbatch.
All these things. And then my favorite stunt casting out of all of it is you're watching this movie where Tommen Baratheon from Game of Thrones is trying to get to his brother, who we find out is played by Robb Stark. Which I think is I don't think that's funny. Entirely on purpose, but as soon as that showed up, I was like, you telling me little Tommy Baratheon's been trying to get back to Robb Stark this entire time? That is fucking amazing. Like, and in every one of these roles is just, I mean, literally they are walk-on roles. There's no reason to have these guys other than you need to know this guy is at this, and like they literally cast it based on how famous, like, the captain is Cumberbatch, but the one general guy is Colin Firth, but the lieutenant is Mark Strong. Like, everyone is in
everyone has these
their
roles.
Hierarchy of how famous they are. It's perfect.
But Beth and I both agreed that we thought it was the best movie of the year, bar none. And that was after and the last movie we watched was last night, which was Jojo Rabbit, which I put right in the echelon just behind it, along with Parasite, which I think is the movie we haven't really discussed that much.
The lower echelon.
Well, yeah, and let's
no. I mean just behind it.
Yeah, and let's talk Jojo Rabbit and Parasite.
You know what though? Like after every single year of screaming at the television and the one award that would let me down is seeing Roger Deakins lose. Now look, you might win 2 in a row.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't if the cinematographer, what's his name, for the Lighthouse wins, I would not be upset either. I think that's a beautiful movie.
I really like the Joker cinematography, man. I really do.
You know what? You and Craig from work, Craig was like, I think it's the best shot movie I've ever seen. He loves the way that movie was shot.
I wouldn't say that, but I think it does. It's kind of outboxing its weight class. I feel like
another year. I absolutely give it to it. I think you have 2 crazy powerhouses with Irishman and I'm sorry, not Irishman, the Lighthouse. Lighthouse only loses because of 1917.
Yeah,
that's the only thing it could possibly lose to.
And 1917 is generational. Like that is a movie that would not lose a cinematography award in 20 years.
Yeah,
I think. You said odds-on favorite is going to be Joaquin Phoenix winning. I think the odds-on favorite is actually 1917 winning. It is such a phenomenal cinematography achievement. It's if you haven't seen it, you don't understand how incredible it is. It's worth seeing in the theater, and I would recommend going to see it in the theater.
And I'll be honest, learning that it was Mendes' grandfather and kind of extrapolating this story and him talking about how he wrote the screenplay based on it, that also hit me like way hard because I was like, because at first I was like, why is this getting a screenplay nod? And I go, now I kind of understand. It's Deakins and Mendes and that writing together are really what craft that movie. But I want to talk Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit. So I saw 1917 yesterday during the afternoon at the theater, but I saw Jojo Rabbit a while ago. Jojo Rabbit was my front runner for favorite movie of the year.
No spoilers.
I will do no spoilers. For me, but it's an easy win for me. Like everything that movie does is a Matt special. It's
Taika,
the way it's shot, the humor that's in it, the heart that creeps in the middle of it. And I will not spoil this. I know Ben, I had sort of talked to you about there's a 1, 2, 3 can't even call it a gag because the payoff is a little bit macabre, but there's a building of a visual cue in the movie that happens twice early on, and I'm like, and I couldn't figure out what it was trying to, like, I was like, it was very in your face. So I'm like, this must mean something, but I couldn't figure it out. And when you get to the punchline, for lack of a better word, on it, I was like, fuck, I don't know how I didn't put this together, and it's crazy.
So there was a surprise that you didn't see coming.
I knew it would. You kind of have a sense that there's something coming, but the way it's revealed is a payoff on this visual cue, and you go, and when it hits you, it is like a ton of.
It's.
I was just trying to get
it's an incredible
description.
I think it's it's a really well made movie. I understand why I think it had some problems with critics tonally. In that it is very kind of Wes Anderson-y and doing Taika Waititi doing kind of a Wes Anderson thing, but I have to give props to any movie that can justifiably pull off a line like "fuck you, Hitler." To Hitler.
That was in the first Captain America.
That and the Heil Hitler scene with Stephen Merchant.
Just where everyone goes around the room. Heil Hitler.
Heil Hitler. It's 130 like Heil Hitlers in like a 2-minute stretch.
Beth and I were dying laughing.
Amazing.
It's so funny.
It really pulls off a lot tonally. I think that is very difficult. And the Wes Anderson thing, what I liked, because I read a little bit about why Taika did that, is he goes, every time you see these World War II movies, and they show Germany, it's always like war-torn Germany. And he's like, I kind of wanted to show this idyllic, that part of what
at the very end, it's war-torn.
It eventually gets there, but everything else is like a picture book up to that point, and it's done very like kind of storybook type thing.
I did love all of the you could just tell that Sam Rockwell and Alfie Allen's characters.
That's Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones delivers.
I'm going to be honest. This is a very janky description of Jojo Rabbit, you guys.
Oh, it's because we're trying to.
I'm trying to avoid some of the great stuff, the other stuff. But yeah, Alfie
Allen tomorrow, so I do appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, Alfie Allen and Sam just as soon as they show up on screen, do not take your eyes off of them the entire time, because
every time they're on screen,
there's a whole story happening in the background that is not necessarily ever really addressed
but
or
so
put
great.
in the forefront. And Alfie Allen, I don't think speaks. I don't think he
speaks.
He barely
he
talks
speaks.
in it, but like very little. It's mostly just him miming shit. Not as he's a Reek-esque character, I suppose.
He's kind of a Reek-esque character.
He put himself in a box after Reek.
But anyways, when it came to the best picture ones, aside from 1917, I kind of put Parasite, Little Women, and Jojo Rabbit all in the same next tier.
Yeah.
Because we've discussed Parasite. I think Parasite is a great movie. I also think
Parasite.
that I have a strange feeling, a very strange feeling that Bong Joon-ho will win Best Director for Parasite. Because
totally. I can see that.
I think that I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, even though I think it's the second odds-on favorite to win after 1917. Because it's a popular movie,
but it is up for Best Foreign Film as well, which always makes things a little bit tricky.
Yeah, so it will not win Best Picture, I don't think, but I think it could potentially win
the
Best.
Scarlett Johansson rule.
There could be only one. The Scarlett Johansson Highlander prospect.
The only thing, and I think that Noah Baumbach could deserve Marriage Story. I really like what he did with the movie. I think that he was very precise in the way that he directed that movie. I think it's kind of outside of his wheelbox and a little bit more personal for him. So I kind of wish that he would win it, but I still think that Bong Joon-ho and others probably deserve it more.
I think
wheelbox.
Yeah, I don't know what wheelbox is.
Wheelhouse. Sorry, wheelbox.
Yeah, get her in the old
it's the
wheelbox.
box I keep my wheels in.
The wheel box is when Joe Pesci gets kicked in the balls. He goes, got me right in the wheel box.
Hey, by the way, we haven't mentioned Ford versus Ferrari yet. You know why?
Doesn't matter.
Nobody cares.
Does not matter.
I got your Ferrari wheels. I got your bike wheels. I got all the wheels in my
Ford
box.
versus Ferrari, the movie that shouldn't have been nominated for an Oscar.
I remember Beth had the exact same reaction I had, which was like, what'd you think of Ford vs. Ferrari? I was like, it's a good movie. She's like, yeah, it's great.
That's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. It's a fine movie. Like, nothing wrong with it.
If there's a movie and there's a car in it and its name isn't Lightning McQueen, I ain't interested.
Don't not watch the movie for any reason, but it's not.
It's a B+ movie populated by good actors.
Don't go out of your way to watch. But so the screen, I think Baumbach's gonna get original screenplay for A Marriage Story, which I think that should happen.
Sure.
Unless I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, please don't.
I think that might.
Parasite and Knives Out, I think are dark horses on there. Maybe they like Knives Out.
I mean, Knives Out's pretty great.
I like Knives Out, but Marriage Story for me, I think, is a better script. I mean, there's a lot of heavy lifting. And adapted screenplay, I'm going for Jojo Rabbit. You got Irishman, Little Women, A Couple of Popes, and Joker.
Did you say a couple of popes? that's a sitcom version of the two popes.
Two popes, one hat. Right? It's how it goes. I don't know. I think I want to
TGIF on TGIF at 8 p.m. A couple of popes.
And a pizza place.
I would definitely cast Ken Marino and Michael Showalter as a couple of popes. and I would have Michael Ian Black as their advisor. This guy to come in and I'm wrangling these two popes. That's my job. I would watch the shit out of that.
Sounds funny.
Can we fit in Squeak Squillari in one?
So I'm assuming, Matt, after all this discussion, your favorite of the year was 1917 too, or was it's still Jojo Rabbit?
No, that's the first one.
It was the Joker along with I'm between Jojo Rabbit and 1917. 1917 really it's another one of those. If it was any other year, I'm gonna take one over the other. 1917 is a singularly not able to be replicated experience, I think, in my opinion. So if I'm gonna pick something that really, Taika's gonna make other amazing shit that is probably gonna be funny and heartfelt that he's gonna get an Oscar for at some point. But it's also Sam Mendes is gonna continue to make fucking great shit too. But 1917 is do you know what it felt like to me a little bit? I don't know if you're gonna, and I'm not a video game guy. It felt like you're playing like a Call of Duty because because it's being done as one shot. It'll slow down and you have these dialogue scenes where they're just walking.
Yeah.
And then they get to the next roller coaster.
That was a criticism of the movie. A lot of people said that it felt like a bunch of cutscenes.
And then you get to an action scene and all of a sudden the music kicks in. But when you're watching it, what's fascinating about why that has to be done is you get to moments where you realize how much movies rely on certain conceits and things to hide what they're doing, how they hide emotional weight when they do a cutaway for time and all these things. And when you're not allowed
how
that,
useful it is to cut between those multiple emotions.
And yes, they have to make up some business at times to make those moments happen. But I love it.
There's not a more stomach turning, and I won't spoil anything for you, Nick, but the cut where they pull the guy out of the plane and then he runs the other direction, you just hear a sound. Pull the guy out of the plane? and the camera whips around and he's just like, oh shit, or whatever, and so it has to run back the other direction, and when you realize what's going on, and you're just like, wait, that's not no. And it's but it's told from this singular person's perspective, and you're just like, it gives a certain weight to the how minuscule you are in the scale of this giant war, and how little you can actually do in certain moments,
and where it's great,
and where that happens
chronologically. because it follows this big set piece, right? So you have your stunt show spectacular scene has just happened where like, hey, we're hanging out in this thing. Oh, there's a dog fight. Hey, one of those planes is coming down. Oh shit, the plane is coming, right? Like,
Yeah,
and you have
yeah,
this whole
it's
thing
great.
that's it's very much like you are in a stunt show at Universal, and it's like, oh, the plane is gonna like have this thing. So you have this big set piece that every
Followed by
time
this great character
Yeah,
moment.
everything comes back to the characters, and I think that's not entirely offset of how probably a lot of those situations are
Yeah, I know.
in war and all that shit. But the other thing I think is fun with that movie, that's a relative word I guess to use. I obviously you go into this, some people do, some people don't go into it knowing this is a magic show you're watching, right?
Right.
And you're trying to see how do they pull off, and there are little things like they show a truck full of soldiers.
Yeah.
And we have to get on this truck full of soldiers with this camera, but then this camera has to exist in the truck full of soldiers, but there is no room.
There's no room for those
that.
soldiers.
So we hide an actual cut in it, which we know is the point at which we're getting into the truck, and we're in an empty truck and half of it, and we're watching our guys from one angle, but then they don't have a cut to hide around the second time.
Yep.
So they get us out of the truck.
the truck.
They turn us for like a half a minute to look at something that's going on the left and then pull back. And I'm like, that is them literally filling a truck in 30 seconds with extras so they can just do a shot that pans haphazardly across them the other way. Like
Yeah,
there are moments
it's
that
incredible.
are, and I think it always ties down to what I think is, for me, the greatest, the first time CGI was used to intimate something instead of completely show it,
Right.
which is the Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump swinging his legs across the table, or his lack of legs. He falls on the floor and he turns, and there's a table sitting there, and his legs just brush by it because they're half legs. And they talk about how that was literally they had to create a completely CGI table, which is
Right.
not done at that time, to allow him to do this thing. And they go, it's just a subtle thing that happens for the viewer that's not flashy. It's not like ooh, look what happened.
But it communicates something.
It puts something into
Yeah.
your brain, that little nugget that says, oh, there's this thing actually exists like it is.
Nick, what was your favorite movie of the year?
My favorite movie of the year was a movie within a movie. It was the movie that Martha and Thomas Wayne watched before they were murdered. The name of that film is Zorro, the Gay Blade.
Nice.
That is canon in Todd Phillips' Joker.
That is
That
with
what was
Hamilton,
playing.
right? That's with what the tan dude plays Zorro the Gay Blade.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
I know that
I
movie.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't have any nominees that I really am ready for.
care.
But and while that's kind of bleak for me, I have not seen 1917 yet, and obviously you guys fucking loved it. But,
It's good.
That being said, one thing that I think is kind of encouraging is the animation category. You got your How to Train Your Dragon 8, and you got your Toy Story.
Hey, don't hate on How to Train Your
But-
Dragon, man. That's a great
but
series.
You also have, Leica's offering, which I hope they never go away and champion stop motion animation forever. But you also have Netflix coming through and really creating some real throwback organic animation with some really talented animators and Klaus.
Klaus.
Is it
Klaus.
It's Santa Claus. It's Claus or Klaus?
Klaus, I think.
It's Klaus, right? I haven't seen it, but I'm going to get to that soon on Netflix. And I Lost My Body, which is another
Right.
looks like something that's really neat. I've not seen it yet, but it seems like the animation. While I'm not thrilled about the Best Picture, there are some interesting offerings this year in animation, different styles, and it seems like they're really awarding the craft more than they used to.
You
It's
should
really not just-
you should look, Nick, at I watched one of the animated shorts because the guy was on he was on the Daily Show, and I was kind of interested in what the short was called, but it's called Hair Love. You can watch it on YouTube. It's super quick. It's a really interesting kind of. At first, I thought the animation was a little bit understated, and then it kind of makes sense of where they're going with it. But it's a really beautiful little short. Highly recommend that one.
I wish all the shorts and short films could be available on the same website.
Most of them are. Look, just Google them. A lot of times the shorts show up online. Yeah, online. I mean that one literally is for free on YouTube. Hair Love you can watch right now.
Yeah, I normally you guys always impress me by the amount of films that you are able to see in the major categories. And I'm never in your rank, but that's doable.
Yeah,
I think a whole day could be kind of nice. Firing up YouTube and watching all the short films and be the only person at your Oscar party that knows intimately what these nominations are about. And there's some fun filmmaking by these people who aren't having the opportunity or a big budget or a studio back to make a feature film.
They did that. They did that maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was the first time I actually saw everything in a certain category. And again, I'm going to say it out there. I cheat in how I watch a lot of my stuff. But I want to see these movies, and I guarantee you I put my money behind any movie that I watched for free at some point. If you ever come to my house, you will see the money is spent on movies.
Right. Matt bought the official Hitler costume from Jojo Rabbit.
I bought the actual mustache. I bought 2 of them, and I wear them like eyebrows in my Groucho Marx disguise. It's a little known secret, but
nice.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a really interesting year. I think we didn't quite get into some of the snubs necessarily, especially Greta Gerwig on the director side.
Yeah, talking about Bad Boys.
Yeah, not even directed by Michael Bay. I mean, you make me watch a Bad Boys movie is not directed by Michael Bay. That's bullshit.
Who gives a fuck?
I mean, come on now. I know where that moneymaker is on there.
Listen, there's going to be another National Treasure movie, so let's just end the podcast on that.
Okay.
So good question for you guys for next podcast, because I literally had National Treasure in my notes for today.
What?
Psychic link, buddy.
Matt Shank, being of sound mind and body, have never seen even a second of a National Treasure movie other than the
first National Treasure is so good.
I have seen none of them. Nothing. And
it's super fun.
Let's watch the first National Treasure movie together.
So my question to you guys for next podcast: what franchise or film have somehow skipped by your purview?
Oh, I think I have a good one.
I mean, Ben knew Blade was on my list, and he fixed that one Thanksgiving. So thanks for that.
And you didn't like that.
Could have maybe given me a National Treasure, but we got Blade. That's great. But yeah, for next week's podcast, let's discuss what franchises we have maybe missed, and maybe make some assignments. Because yes, I will watch. I have nothing against National Treasure.
That can be a side note because we need to do some other
it's
stuff.
not the full episode, but yeah, I never got to National Treasure.
National Treasure is really like, man, if the next Uncharted, the movie based on the Naughty Dog video game, if they match tonally the National Treasure films, they will have done really well for themselves.
Yep.
I think.
Maybe they can get the cinematographer from The Joker to do the next National Treasure.
Okay.
Are you being facetious?
I think he is.
Me?
I'm being serious. Listen. I haven't seen 1917. Okay. I did see Joker, and the cinematography was.
You haven't seen Marriage Story. You haven't seen Little Women. You haven't seen Jojo Rabbit yet.
Nick sees Little Women every time he looks at his board.
Yep. Every time he thinks about Mothra.
Little Women, big eyebrows.
Little Women.
I've seen clips of Little Women.
My monkey.
All right. Well, on that note, we will leave you. We hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you listen.
We're done already. We've only been recording for 2 hours.
Just an hour 46. We thank you for listening. We hope that you are watching the Oscars tonight after listening to this, or you watched the Oscars last night and you're listening to this on the way to work over several days.
Just like the Irishman.
People could have watched 1/4 of The Irishman in the time it took them to get through this podcast.
Do you know how old I was when we started this podcast? I was a young man. I'm a young man. De Niro says that.
We had to de-age Matt and Nick's voice for the first half of this podcast.
Now go outside and feebly curb stomp someone.
If you like The Irishman, I urge you to listen to Pete Holmes' routine talking about Robert De Niro's Gumby walk as he goes to try to beat the shit out of some guy, and his incessant repeating of "I'm a young man." And it's like, no, you're not. We can tell you're not. I'm a young man. I'm a young man. I'm in my 30s. I'm a young man.
But you don't have to take Matt's word for it.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Fuck the Irishman.